our work right now on the planet is to bring honoring and sanctity to the invisible just as much as the visible. The invisible results are things like feeling good, things like feeling connected, things like our health, our well-being, a feeling of joy, pleasure.
Embodiment can't be faked. Once you're in an open state where you actually can see through a clear lens, you're not clouded by fear, you're not clouded by the amygdala, you're not clouded by the society's news and all the fear-based stuff, and you're just with you. Then you get to decide where you think we actually are.
It is possible to navigate pain with grace.
Energy is information. We're here to experience the full spectrum.
That worthiness is hard for you. There's nothing wrong with you. It is a muscle that we kind of have to learn how to access. You are not disempowered, and you have power in every area of your life all the time.
I believe that chronic illness is an opportunity for us to heal.
Health, it's a choice. Listening to your body if you so choose.
My prayer for the world would be that they would know the infinite love of God.
Aloha and welcome to the Body and Soul Wisdom Podcast with your host, Jen Mons. Join me each week for soul-inspired, conscious conversations around awakening to your soul purpose through 5-element well-being. Thank you so much for joining in. Aloha, my friends and family. Welcome back to the Body and Soul Wisdom Podcast. It feels so good to be back in the recording studio with you all again. You may have noticed that we revamped and reintroduced the 10-week prosperity consciousness series over the last few months as we ran our group prosperity program. And so it feels really good just to connect with you, give you an update on all the changes that are happening in my world, and connect with you on what's happening in your world. So today's topic is from grief to grace. And I know that grief is a part of the human experience. I've coached women for almost 15 years. And so I have witnessed and supported many women through different types of grief because that is part of life, whether it's a loss of a job or your children going off to college or a marriage or a partnership or a loved one. Grief is an experience that we all experience, and I don't know anyone, at least who's in their 30s or 40s by now, who hasn't experienced some type of loss. So today I'm going to share with you the 3 areas which grief is currently showing up in my life, because they're 3 different areas, and how I'm navigating it. Of course, if you find yourself, really struggling with this, then in any area of your life, if you're experiencing grief, then it's a good idea to get some professional support. So this show is not intended to be that support, but just to share with you how I'm navigating and my personal experiences. The 3 ways that grief is currently showing up in my life are, 1, with the recent passing of my dad, who I was really close with. 2, actually, as I record this podcast, today is my oldest daughter's 18th birthday. And 3, changes in the service and the work that I am offering in my community. When I entered 2024, I felt this overwhelming sense of grief, and I didn't know why. For as long as I can remember, for the past 12, 13 years at least in my coaching business, I've always been really excited to create the new year vision, the word of the year. I have led workshops, and for some reason this year I just couldn't get started. I remember having a very similar feeling in 2020, just before the pandemic, and just having this overall sense, this feeling of loss, and not really understanding what it was or where it was coming from or if it was even mine. And of course, knowing that my oldest daughter was going to turn 18, that she is going to be graduating from high school, attending college in Italy. Now, she did leave 2 years ago to go to an international college prep boarding school in Hawaii. So in a sense, she left a little bit early. But there is an energetic shift that happens when your firstborn turns 18. And in the world of energy and numbers and astrology and 9-year cycles, we are completing a second 9-year cycle together. Many of you know, if you've listened to my podcast over the years, that her birth experience was different. I had pregnancy-induced liver failure. She came almost 7 weeks early. I've talked many, many times about my rebirth, about my near-death experience, about the soul frequency, the soul upgrade that was available to me in her birthing process, and how she's been my greatest teacher. How I shifted from working corporate as an engineer at the time and working 60 to 70, sometimes 80 hours a week in very masculine dominated environments, to completely shifting out of necessity to restore my health into holistic health, breath work, meditation, yoga, energy healing, women's retreats, healing the divine feminine, and then finally into this next cycle of the business, which is supporting wellness coaches and leaders to amplify their wellness businesses. And one of the ways that I support wellness leaders and coaches is through retreats, which I have created the Prosperous Retreat Method. If you haven't heard the story that I've shared around my daughter's birth, let's just say it was a moment in time where I had a choice to stay or to go. And I realized in that moment that my choice wasn't about me. That if I did make it about me, that I was being selfish. That if I made the choice to leave because of the pain that I was experiencing, because my body was not supporting me, because it was letting me down, that it would be selfish. And so it wasn't until 30 hours after my daughter was born that I actually was able to hold her and to see her for the first time. And I will never forget the first time I looked into her eyes through the glass, because she was in an incubator. And it just felt like she looked right through me and right into my soul. It felt like we had been together for lifetimes, and we were agreeing to do this again. That our souls were agreeing to whatever we agreed we would learn and evolve in our own individual paths, that we had something to do together. And so as I come to you on her 18th birthday, she is in Fiji, restoring coral reefs, living in a small village for a couple of weeks, supporting the environment in the middle of the Pacific Ocean. Sometimes when we raise very confident children and we raise them to chase their dreams, it takes them away from us. And that is, in my opinion, true unconditional love. And that's what Grief to Grace is really loving someone or something so much that you're willing to let it go. You're willing to accept the experience for what it is, even when you don't want to. And you can feel it deeper than you ever even knew was possible. And this was an experience that I had recently with my dad, who transitioned. It was a really hard thing to go through. I'm very close to my dad. He has been a guiding light for so many of the decisions I made in my life. And he is also a great part of what I'm here to heal in my lineage, in myself, as a mother, as a woman, as a female leader. Redefining and leading a paradigm shift in what it means to be a woman and to lead in today's world. Completely shifting my life choices from what I thought I was supposed to do, all that I knew, graduating from a military academy, getting 2 degrees, then working as an engineer in the Merchant Marines with a Coast Guard license, until the day that my daughter was born. That's when everything changed. I shifted from a completely masculine driven work ethic and environment to healing myself physically, and then my family physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, and financially, which I call the 5 elements of well-being. So this feels very tender. I have spent the many hours of today writing my daughter a letter for her 18th birthday, something that I have done for the past 8 years. I've written her a letter on every birthday, and I haven't given any of them to her yet. So when I see her in a couple weeks, I'm going to take all the letters and I'm going to give them to her. The letters are a summary of what that year was like, both the celebrations and the challenges. And so, as it is her birthday, it is also a rebirth day for me. And I'm celebrating not only the woman, the young lady that she has become, which is more than I ever could have imagined, but also who I've become in the process. And if you are a mother of older children, or if you're a new mother, you likely already agree that becoming a mother is one of the greatest honors and joys, and also one of the most life-changing experiences that we ever have. It softens us in ways we didn't know was possible. Shows us more than we ever knew was possible. The depths of our gifts and also our shadows. That's the journey of parenting. So I find it interesting that within a month of each other, I said goodbye to my dad. And I also welcome my oldest daughter into becoming a young lady, becoming a young adult. Huge life transitions. The transition with my dad was beautiful and tender. He had been struggling with his health for many years. And after his mother passed away, which was just before COVID, over the last 4 years, things seemed to get more challenging for him. And as much as I have been traveling, many of you know that I travel at least 6 months out of the year, both for work and also to support my youngest daughter in her serving. I'm so grateful that I was home and able to be with him in the hospital for the last 10 days of his life. I spent as much time as I could just being there in his presence. And even though there had been a couple of other times I didn't think he was going to make it, I had this feeling that this was going to be his final goodbye. The last time I spoke with him at our house, he told me he didn't have much time. And I knew. I told him that. Tears began to fill my eyes, not because I was going to miss him, and I do, but because I felt so much grief for the life that I wish that he had, the health that I wish he had. And I felt that no one should struggle with their health. And it was also reminded why I have spent a great deal of my life committed to health and well-being, serving others, especially women, in the capacity of supporting them to live well in physical health by eating well, emotional and mental well-being, spiritual well-being. Because health gives us quality of life. It's really hard to have the energy to do the things that we want to do when we don't have the energy, when we're not well, when we're not healthy. And that's why I feel and I believe that health is a foundation, because it gives you life, it gives you time, it gives you quality of life, it gives you quality of experiences. And I wouldn't be able to do half the things that I'm able to do, all the traveling I can do, the energy to support my clients, if my health and well-being was not a priority and the foundation. Which is why I'm so passionate about helping other female business owners that are also passionate about health and wellness. We're supporting others as health coaches or health practitioners of several kinds. I have clients that are yoga teachers and wellness practitioners, yoga studio owners, health coaches, health leaders, retreat leaders. And it's such an honor to really help those women grow and amplify their business and their income by creating a foundation of thriving in their business when they thrive in their life first. There is no other way that is as sustainable as thriving from the inside out in your own life and relationships and your health first. When you do this, your business thrives more easily because you have the energy to put into it. You have energetic alignment. You take aligned action. You lead from the person that you're becoming. You lead from your gifts and not your blocks, not your wounds, not your limiting beliefs. You have a healthy relationship with your body, with your loved ones, with money, with your business, with time. All of these things matter. They're important. As I reflect back on the past couple weeks and the releasing of my dad in his physical form, it was such a tender and beautiful process. In those last moments, just before he asked for help, and I knew he was asking for help to transition. And I felt this great sense of inner peace and honor to be with him. To be with a person that you love so deeply in their last moments. is truly a wonderful gift, just as it is to be there for birth, because they're both births, they're both new beginnings. And in those last few moments, I found great peace in supporting him in his last breaths, letting him know that it was okay to let go, that we loved him, that we were here with him, and that we knew he'd always be with us. It's been an interesting experience since then. I have felt more peace than I knew was possible. Sometimes it makes me wonder, am I avoiding? But I've really given myself permission to be with all of the experience. As I've looked through the pictures, I've read and listened to all of the voicemails and read all the text messages. I've gone over all the things, and I feel truly grateful. I feel truly grateful for everything that my dad was for me, everything that he taught me, and everything that he wasn't and that he didn't teach me. Because those are the things that we get to discover on our own. So how interesting that I begin this next 9-year cycle, one of exploring deeper relationship to masculine and feminine leadership, the balance that it requires in strong women. As I lead and support these women, I also navigate my own journey. As I lead and support and guide my own daughters in their own experience, I am also navigating my own. As I lead and support the women in my coaching business, I am also navigating the changes and shifts in my own business. When we give ourselves permission to be in the flow and in the moment and very present in the stillness through our breath, we can access that truth. We can access that trust. We can get out of our own way, and we can make the choice to move forward 1 foot at a time in the direction of the person that we want to become. So if you're experiencing any type of grief in your life, which most of us are at some point or another, loss of a job, loss of health, loss of love, loss of money, loss of a dream that you thought was happening. Grief can show up in so many different ways. What happens when you give yourself space to be present with what it means for you? When you give yourself permission and space to be present with the experience, the energy softens and you increase your capacity to receive and to grow. You embrace and accept where you are, where everything is in that moment. Oftentimes, it's nice to have the support while we go through this, And depending on what your experience is, support could look like a friend, a loved one, a coach, a therapist. But we don't have to do this alone. The most important thing that I learned in this process that I've been in for really since 2024 began is that it takes a lot of trust to live in grace. And trust is the foundation for prosperity consciousness, where we thrive in health, wealth, and love. We thrive in life. We prosper. We are resourced. We give from a place of overflowing when we trust. And it takes a great deal of trust each day to move forward, not actually really knowing what the future holds, but hoping and thinking that we know. And taking action, aligned action towards the person we want to become, not even knowing what the result's going to be. That's that deeper layer of trust. And it takes a lot of trust to live in the flow of grace. And that is our only purpose, is to stand in this life as that expression of God's love, of grace, and allow that to flow through us so we can embody that love, that expression of grace every day and just be who we were born to be and to feel that every day, to live that truth. Sovereign, grounded, knowing, present. So if you're struggling with grief because of life's changes, get the support you need and give yourself permission to be in the experience so that you can have clarity on what's next. So that you can be in the experience rather than avoiding or resisting it or even trying to control it, which none of those things, all of those things are illusions. I'm excited for what's to come, for what's next for me. I know that there is a book that wants to be written. I feel that the transitions that I'm in right now are the catalyst for what is about to come. Things are shifting in ways effortlessly in my business. And it's wonderful. You'll be hearing in the years to come, as I celebrate 5 years on the podcast, I'll likely be bringing on more guests to support wellness business leaders so that we can grow and amplify and create an impact together. We can be a part of that ripple effect, that greater change. Feminine leaders, wellness leaders, and coaches. And I'll close with this. The transition from grief to grace requires trust, embracing who you are and the experience and where you are in that experience, courage to trust, acceptance of what is, and the wisdom to listen, honor the experience, and to continue moving forward. Thank you so much for joining me and allowing me to share all of this with you on the podcast. I look forward to connecting with you again next week, and I hope you all have a wonderful day. Aloha.
The content of this podcast is to educate, inspire, and inform you of pathways to an embodied healing self. It is not intended to be a substitute for professional medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. Always seek the advice from your medical doctor, therapist, registered dietitian, or nutritionist for any questions you may have regarding your diagnosis or condition.
Hello, friends, and thank you so much for joining again each week on the Body and Soul Wisdom podcast. I am so deeply honored to share this space with you every week. I know that there are many other podcasts that you could be tuning into, and our community is expanding and growing more with each new episode. I'd like to invite you to come on over to jenmons.com/tribe and receive some of the wonderful gifts that we have for you: a meditation bundle, energetic alignment, 5-element wealth, prosperity consciousness. We have a ton of different gifts available for you to enjoy. Now, we have one small favor to ask. In order for this podcast to get into the hearts and souls of like and light-minded people, we need your support. We would love your review and would love it if you'd head on over to jenmons.com/podcast to leave a review or leave one on iTunes so that we can continue to share the love beyond out into the world. Thank you so much again for joining in. We'll see you next week.